Now, I'm no Madam Web, but I know what you're thinking. Is The Amazing Spider-Man 2 amazing? Well, isn't that the question of the day? What did I do today? Well, I ate some cornflakes, specifically Kellogg's branded Crunchy Nuts. If I were a partner, that product placement would actually mean something, because when cornflakes unite, his greatest breakfast begins. Wait, I meant when enemies unite, his greatest battle begins. Trust me guys, this is his greatest battle to date, but it's a lot more than just a battle. All this irrelevant talk may be grinding your gears, so I'll cut this web short and give you what you want. Hint hint. The Amazing Spider-Man 2. In some countries, it has a subtitle, Rise of Electro. Unlike Captain America 2, The Winter Soldier, which for the record I masturbate to every night. I love you, Cap. There is enough of the eponymous villain to warrant him being part of the title. It's a shame then that we don't have the opportunity to experience that subtitle firsthand here in the UK. And before you ask, Winter Soldier was short but sweet. And that, my friends, is an absolute fucking understatement. Sorry, I meant Winter Soldier's screen time was short but sweet, but you get the gist of it, don't you? Righty-o. The second movie in a planned quadrilogy of movies directed by 500 Days of Summer director Mark Webb. If I actually need to explain this for the casuals among you, it's a sequel and continuation of the events of The Amazing Spider-Man. Well, what you know. As expected, the main cast from the last movie returns. My man Andy G, Andrew Garfield, is back as Peter Parker / Spider-Man. You know, for a second I actually thought there were two completely different people there. Emma Stone's back as Gwen Stacy. Sally Field, is that her name? Yeah, Sally Field's back as Aunt May again, and this time she doesn't seem too bothered about the eggs, and I shit you not, that is about it for the returning cast. Oh yeah, and the man in the shadows returns this time round, but this time, however, we have a name for the creepy little bastard. Gustav Fiers, aka the Gentleman, who's basically just an evil white Nick Fury. Oh goddammit, I keep forgetting, right? The MCU, Ultimate Nick Fury, and 616 Nick Fury Jr. always keep making me forget the White Infinity Formula Nick Fury Sr. actually still exists. Right, he's just getting the Sinister Six together, there you go. Speaking of the Sinister Six, so before I start, does anyone want to get out? Okay, wrong movie, but check out this sweet poster I got for seeing the movie in IMAX 3D. Usually IMAX and 3D are just cheap gimmicks, but trust me, you need them in your life for this majestic, diamond-encrusted shit stain. And I mean that with the most positive connotations whatsoever. I'll just tell you everything I know. The backstory regarding Mary and Richard Parker, that tiger from that movie with that Indian guy, is expanded on a wee bit this time, but it's still fairly shrouded in mystery. This Richard Parker is more akin to his Ultimate Universe counterpart. I believe he worked for Trask Industries in those comics, but he was a scientist nonetheless, and he was killed in a plane crash too, as the companies watching over his shoulders, in this movie's case Oscorp, were pissed at him for not helping them make biological weapons. In the Ultimate Comics, Cancer Suit Venom was his potential biological weapon, and in this cinematic universe, it's spiders? Yeah, don't ask. Nothing interesting to say here, other than Richie goes out, dare I say, like a boss. Also, you really do feel for him, since his actions don't appear as selfish as they did in the first movie, as they're justified, and since you really see his fatherly side shine through. Everything he's doing for Pete, and this is making me emotional. One sec. After a pretty swell fade to black, and then fade to Spidey's red back spider, which I'm still bummed isn't puffy and all, but it makes sense for him to use the same identifiable symbol everywhere, we cut to Spidey going about his usual routine. Hey, that's not a spoiler. What have you got for him today, New York? Well, New York has Alright, let me get this right. Alexei Sistevich, or Sitsevich, or whatever. Alex O'Hearn, soon to be the Rhino, stealing some plutonium canisters from Oscorp. Spidey thwarts him, and I'll just say this right here. They have nailed Spidey, alright? Everything about him, I love everything. I was just gonna make a direct reference to something Spidey says in the trailers, which goes along pretty much the same lines, or should I say, webs. Sorry, that was terrible. What we get next is some much-needed character development. Throughout the movie, Spidey sees visions of the recently deceased Captain Stacy, haunting him for not staying true to his promise. Keep Gwen out of this. And we learn about Peter's constant guilt about this. Yeah, he ends the first movie by saying that promises you can't keep are the best kind, but he probably wasn't thinking before he spoke there. That's right, kids. Think before you speak. And don't do drugs. So, because of all this guilt, he understands that he can't get Gwen involved in any of this. He loves her and he wants to protect her, and when you see the movie yourself, you really do understand how much he loves her. Heck, I'll spoil this right here. He pulls a complete fucking Spider-Man free Topher Grace Venom. Okay, fine, Topher Grace, I won't call him Venom, and webs him a message saying, I love you, to a bridge. In broad daylight. If that isn't fucking adorable, I have no idea what is. Another great thing I'd like to say about the movie is that it really plays up her resourcefulness and intelligence, and she certainly isn't a damsel in distress. And I'm not just saying that to please the feminists, but it's true. Peter's supposed to be the science whiz, and she's ultimately the one who helps him take down Electro. He's the brawn, she's the brain, and I just love that dynamic. Plus, we have this whole fiasco about her moving to England to get an Oxford scholarship and Peter trying to make the most of what little time they have left together. Now, a key theme in the movie is time, and this kills me. Just like in Ultimate Spider-Man, how we'll never get to know what Peter could have been because he's deader than dead now, Peter ultimately, unintended wordplay right there, decides to go with her to London. He wanted to spend the rest of his life with her, goddammit, and now she's gone. Also, she's really the only person in the movie who sympathized for Max, and that is pretty neat, I guess. If you didn't like her in the first movie, this movie will change your opinion on her completely. Also, on behalf of Dane DeGobby, I'd just like to say that it was Peter, and Peter alone, who killed her. End of discussion. I honestly think that the spin they took with her death was pretty fitting for the tone of the final act. It was brutal, it was gut-wrenching, with all the emotional weight you'd expect from a scene like that. What, that's a spoiler? The Amazing Spider-Man, Volume 1, issue number 121/122. Check out that shit right there, casuals. Peter Parker now. So, we've established his guilt, but let's just establish how good he is at being Spider-Man. Oh shit. He pulls off all the classic poses this time around, and boy oh boy. Right, his spider sense is presented in many a different way. You've got bullet time like in The Matrix, you got slow-mo like in The Matrix as well, and you got the sound effects. This is a guy who can be in more places than one at the same time, and during the Times Square battle, this really shines. He can sense that people are going to get electrocuted by Electro, since that's kind of what Electro does, if the name didn't give it away, and he saves these people and the triumphant Zimmer score just starts playing. Ugh. His interactions with Aunt May give you just the right level of feels, and really do give more insight into her as a person. She's had to raise Peter on her own without his parents or anything, and she just breaks down saying that without Uncle Ben, she doesn't know what to do. She's trying to make ends meet, and the stress is getting to her. She's taking nursing classes, part-timing as a waitress, all of this for Peter. Gee, I've talked about how Peter's dad did stuff for him, and how Aunt May's doing stuff for him. God, he's just getting spoon-fed this whole fucking movie. Right. She also, inadvertently, I guess, helps him uncover the mystery of whether his father was a traitor to the country or not. And get this, okay, I'm not talking about her anymore, but the Daily Bugle is mentioned. J. Jonah Jameson is mentioned. We don't see him, but from what you do see concerning the Bugle in an email Peter sends to him, and Peter gets a response almost instantaneously from the man himself, he's his usual Spidey-bashing self. Oh yeah, and we might actually be getting J.K. Simmons back in The Amazing Spider-Man 3, and I sincerely hope we do, because god damn it, Mark Webb, you need to do this. Now, the villains. 3 villains this time round, and to everyone who instantly concluded that 3 villains meant the second coming of Spider-Man 3, I just wanted to say that you were wrong, and how wrong you were. So, all the villains are connected, unlike Spider-Man 3. Electro, Rhino, Gobby. In this movie, they all crawl out of one dungeon. Oscorp. In Spider-Man 3, we had 3 conflicting subplots, 2 of which were begun and concluded horribly, respectively. We've got Ben's true killer, Flint Marko, aka the Sandman. We've got Harry personally trying to get revenge on Peter since he knows who he is now, as the Neo-Goblin. And we have Venom out of nowhere with the most uninspired motives of all time. Seriously, it's like, you took away my girlfriend, now I'm gonna kill everyone you love. God damn it, that's a bit over the top, don't you think? Notice how they don't quite add up. However, this time around we have Electro and Rhino, who were created by Oscorp, and Harry Osborn, who creates himself but using Oscorp tech, all bound together by their mutual hatred for the web-slinger. Max Dillon is, on top of being race swap, but I don't give a damn because I just love Jamie Foxx's portrayal of him, is just a nobody who gets saved by Spidey one time, thinks he saved him personally, and assumes they're best friends. Also, I noticed how Max Dillon in this movie actually had a Spider-Man the New Animated Series vibe to him, like this guy who nobody even notices, and then he gets these powers, and he's friggin' omnipotent. God fucking damn it. Post-transformation and at Times Square, he's feeling many things towards Spidey. He's feeling betrayed since he doesn't even remember his name. Just roll with it, guys, seriously. He's jealous since all the screens there stop displaying his face and start displaying Spidey's, and he feels like Spidey set him up, as he believes the guy shooting at him and Spidey are in cohorts. Electro as a villain is pretty damn menacing. This guy is like a badass evil Dr. Manhattan, except his dick isn't flapping around everywhere all the time. So of course he is quite a threat. Also, he has dubstep powers. Need I say more? He's definitely not dead. Yep, he got overcharged and dissipated, but remember, he's a pure energy being. And as Newton likes to say, energy can't be created or destroyed, it can only be transferred. Well, he did like to say, but that guy was kind of fucking nuts. Can't be destroyed. He's out there somewhere, and they better use him in the Sinister Six lineup. The Green Goblin, Gobby, played by Dane DeHaan, and believe it or not, was my favourite villain in the movie by far. My god, so Harry's dying, he's inherited a hereditary disease, you know, that's kind of what you do with hereditary diseases from his dad, which is slowly disfiguring him and killing him. And his dad's disappointed in him since his disease is becoming apparent early, and he'll never get to amount to anything in his short lifetime. Eager to get rid of the Osborn curse, he gets desperate, realizes that Spidey's blood may save him since he was bit by an Oscorp spider with regenerative powers. He asks Spidey for his blood, however, we as the audience find out that his blood would probably only be compatible with Peter, and would possibly kill Harry or worse. So he's feeling betrayed too, quote unquote. You don't inspire hope, you take it away, but that's kind of out of context here. And he teams up with Electro to get his OZ serum or spider venom from a secret Oscorp division and ends up fucking himself up really badly. Also, he puts on this prototype military armor with healing capabilities and conveniently a glider. He fights Spider-Man, does the most menacing laugh ever, and kinda helps in killing Gwen, but note the emphasis on kinda there. I think he does his job as a villain pretty darn well, but he gets his company taken away from him, and you learn that he pretty much got his childhood taken away from him, however cliche that might be. And I think, like Max, he does follow in the tradition of being a sympathetic villain of sorts, though he does have some awesome moments where he just comes across as being a huge douche. Rhino, played by Paul Giamatti, who really makes this performance as hammy as possible, and I just love how Max and Rhino actually call themselves by their aliases, and embrace their goofiness, is kind of similar to the Scarecrow in The Dark Knight. He's just there to conclude the movie, as opposed to the Scarecrow opening The Dark Knight, but that's that. So, Gustav Fiers, the gentleman, and Harry meet up in the Ravencroft Institute at the end of the movie to discuss forming the Sinister Six that will faux show include the Vulture and Doc Ock. And Gustav tells Harry that someone's already volunteered for the team, and that somebody would just happen to be good old Hornhead. Anyway, Spidey's been really depressed since Gwen died and gave up being Spidey for an entire year. And Rhino starts wreaking havoc one day, and this really brave kid steps up to him, and just when you think this kid's in over his head, bam. Spidey shows up, and instead of a final swing, we end on the note of Spidey and Rhino racing into battle, and Spidey fucking smashing Rhino's face with a sewer thing. God, I've forgotten what you call them, okay? Also, Felicia Hardy was introduced, so we may or may not get the Black Cat in this universe, but I know it's something, actually. The way she overheard Harry and Peter's conversation about Harry dying, despite the fact that the room they were talking in was just completely out of bounds, closed. That kind of gives me hope, but personally the bitches who have Spider-Man vacuum left in the wake of Gwen's death, I hope we do get her. Oh yeah, and Alistair Smythe was in this as a higher-up Oscorp employee, and any fans of the 90s cartoon will remember him as the Spider Slayer, albeit this version isn't a cripple. But as I said, everything is linked to Oscorp. No exceptions. One final thing I'd like to say is that in classic Marvel fashion, there are a good few subtle Easter eggs. Oh, you know, they're only just everywhere. We've got the classic 60s cartoon Spidey theme as Peter's ringtone. He whistles it at one point. Max Dillon's birthday cake is green and yellow. I don't even need to explain that one. A shot of the clock tower in the final act shows that the time is 21 past 1. 121. The Amazing Spider-Man issue number 121. I've mentioned it before. Turning Point. Google it. And the 00 project, which is a reference to the GM Spider that bit Peter in the Ultimate Comics, is present too. So you get the idea. I kind of forgot to mention that it's pretty visually stunning, especially including the web slinging and the power plant fight, with one or two scenes being obvious CGI, but what you expect. And Peter finally uses Google now. I think screw everything in this review, that's the one thing that counts. I was just building up to this. He finally uses Google now. And the soundtrack. Oh man, the soundtrack. Tracks 11 and 20. I'm Goblin and You're That Spider Guy are my jam. And what I love about this OST is that most of the music is pretty darn experimental. It's not your usual Zimmer stuff, that's for sure. All in all, with solid performances, electrifying action, drama, and everything you'd expect from a Spider-Man movie, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 has fulfilled all of my expectations. And yes, I may be acting like a huge fanboy, and I may be slightly just absolutely biased, but I will definitely be giving it a 9 out of 10. It's certainly given Captain America the Winter Soldier a run for its money in terms of being a jolly good show, but by no means am I comparing two completely different movies right here, right now, so don't judge. So did you like The Amazing Spider-Man 2? Did you hate it? Tell me in the comments down below. Thanks for watching. Oh yeah, and if you thought Electro's spectacular Spider-Man inspired origin was silly, just look at this. Hit by lightning. Yeah. Yeah.